She told me I was her safe place, her forever, her everything, and I believed her with every part of my soul. But when I discovered her hidden messages and secret plans, the woman I thought I knew became the stranger who destroyed my faith and love forever. His name was Marcus, new guy in marketing, all sharp suits and easy confidence. The kind of attention that makes feel seen after years of feeling invisible in own marriage. Tom hadn't looked at me like that since before Emma was born. Tom barely looked at me at all anymore except to coordinate pickup schedules and grocery lists. But that's the lie I told, isn't it? The comfortable narrative that justified everything that came after. Marcus texted me the next morning. Coffee. Just one word that made my stomach flip like I was 16 again. I stared at that message for 20 minutes, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Tom was eating cereal, asking why mommy looked funny. Everything okay? Tom called from upstairs. Perfect. I called back, hitting send on sure 2 p.m. at Brew and Bean. That's how it starts. Not with some grand romantic gesture or soul-crushing marital betrayal. Just a text message and a lie so small it barely registered as deception. Just coffee with a coworker. Completely innocent. Except I changed clothes 3 times before leaving. Except I deleted the text thread immediately after. Except I felt more alive during that 1-hour coffee than I had in months of marriage. Marcus was everything Tom wasn't. Spontaneous where Tom was predictable. Exciting where Tom was steady. He listened to my complaints about feeling trapped in suburban mom, like they were the most fascinating problems in the world. Made me feel like I was still the woman I used to be before I became someone's wife, someone's mother. Or too young to settle for boring. He said, leaning across the tiny caf table. It's supposed to feel like an adventure. God, I wanted to be adventurous again. I wanted to feel chosen, desired, pursued. Tom and I had settled into roommate territory years ago. We functioned like a well-oiled machine, tag-teaming parenting duties and household responsibilities. But when was the last time he'd surprised me? When was the last time he'd made me feel beautiful instead of just useful? I started meeting Marcus for lunch, then drinks after work. Then longer conversations that stretched into evening, forcing me to invent increasingly elaborate excuses for Tom. Client dinners, networking events, girls' nights that didn't exist. Each lie came easier than the last. Tom never questioned me. That's what I told was the problem. No. He trusted me completely. And somehow I twisted that into evidence that he didn't care enough to be suspicious. If he really loved me, wouldn't he notice the new perfume? The way I started doing my hair differently. The fact that I was suddenly working late 3 nights a week. His trust felt like indifference, and I used that feeling to justify everything that came next. The first time Marcus met me properly was in his car outside my office building. Real kiss this time, not the champagne-fueled mistake from the party. This one was deliberate, hungry. It tasted like decisions I couldn't take back. Shouldn't, I whispered, not pulling away. Probably not, he agreed, his hand tangling in my hair. But we did anyway, and it felt like coming alive after years of sleepwalking through my own. I drove home that night with my lips still tingling, walked into my house, and hugged my daughter like nothing had changed. She wrapped her little arms around my neck and said, "Smell different, mommy. Kids notice everything." I should have remembered that. New shampoo. I lied, adding another small deception to the growing pile. Tom looked from his laptop. How was work? Exhausting. Another lie. I felt energized, electric, more awake than I'd been in years. He nodded, already back to whatever he was reading. Didn't ask follow questions. Didn't seem to notice that I was standing in our kitchen, still tasting another man on my lip, radiating guilt and excitement in equal measure. This became my evidence that he didn't really see me anymore. This became my justification for everything that followed. Looking back, I realized Tom was probably just giving me space, trusting me to share what I wanted to share. Probably thought he was being respectful, not intrusive. But I read his respect as indifference, his trust as neglect. I was already building the narrative that would let me destroy our together. The affair escalated quickly after that. Hotel rooms during lunch breaks, weekend, work conferences that were really romantic getaways. I became an expert at compartmentalization, sliding seamlessly between my roles as devoted mother and passionate mistress. Marcus made me feel like the main character in my own story again instead of a supporting player in everyone else's. When I was with him, I wasn't mommy or honey or the person who remembered to buy milk. I was Sarah, the woman with dreams and desires and the right to pursue them. Deserved to be happy, he'd whisper, and I believed him. I convinced I was protecting my family by being discreet, that I could have both lives running parallel forever. That I could be a good mother and wife while also being Marcus's lover, that these compartments would never collide. God, the arrogance of it. The sheer stupidity of thinking I could control something so fundamentally destructive. But for 4 months it worked. I was happier at home because I was getting my needs met elsewhere. More patient with Emma because I felt fulfilled as a woman. Even friendlier with Tom because the guilt made me overcompensate with kindness. I thought I was managing everything perfectly. Marcus started pushing for more, longer trips, meeting his friends, talking about what would happen when I left Tom. When I asked, I never said when, but will. He said so confident. Nobody stays in a marriage this dead unless they have to. That's when I started to realize Marcus saw our affair differently than I did. For me it was an escape, a parallel that made my real bearable. For him it was a stepping stone to something permanent. I can't just leave. I told him. I have Emma to think about, to adapt. He said dismissively. She'll be fine. Kids are resilient. The casual way he talked about my daughter's emotional well-being should have been a red flag. Should have reminded me that he didn't actually know us, didn't understand that I'd asking him to help me. Instead I felt flattered that he wanted me enough to envision a real future together. I started fantasizing about it. Divorced, parenting with Tom, building something new and exciting with Marcus. In my imagination everyone adjusted perfectly. Tom found someone else who appreciated his steadiness. Emma split time between 2 homes but gained a stepfather who brought adventure to her. I managed to envision a scenario where nobody got, where everyone actually ended happier. The level of self-deception required for that fantasy should have terrified me. But I was addicted to the feeling of being wanted, chosen, pursued. Addicted to the version of that existed in Marcus's arms. And addiction makes rationalize anything. The beginning of the end started with a business card. Emma found Marcus's business card in my purse while digging for gum. Just a simple white rectangle with his name and number, but she held it like evidence at a trial. Who's Mark to me? Is he friend? My turn to ice water. Just someone from work, baby. Not important, but she was 6 not. She looked at me with those questioning eyes that see everything adults try to hide. Then why do have his card and purse like the special ones? Special ones, the business cards I kept for people who mattered. Her pediatrician. My hairdresser. The contractor who fixed our bathroom. It's not special. I lied, taking it from her tiny fingers. Mommy just forgot to throw it away. She shrugged and went back to searching for gum, but I saw the exact moment she filed that interaction away in her memory. Kids are like little FBI agents, collecting data about the adults in their world, building profiles of inconsistencies and strange behaviors. I should have ended it right then. Should have seen that business card as the universe giving me a warning, a chance to step back before everything imploded. Instead, I threw the card away and convinced the close call meant nothing. Marcus was getting impatient with my compartmentalization. He wanted to meet Emma, wanted to be part of my real instead of existing in stolen moments. I'm tired of being dirty little secret, he said during one of our hotel afternoons. Either this means something or it doesn't. Of course it means something. Then prove it. Introduce me to daughter. The suggestion made my stomach clench. Bad enough that I was betraying Tom, but dragging Emma into this felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. She's not ready for that, I said, or not ready to admit what this really is. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was still pretending this was something I could control, something I could keep separate from my real forever. That's when Marcus suggested the weekend in Charleston. A romantic getaway. Just the two of us, no sneaking around or watching the clock. I'll tell Tom it's a work conference, I said. No, Marcus said firmly. Tell him it's time to had a conversation about marriage. The way he said it, so casual and confident, made me realize he genuinely believed I was going to leave Tom. That this affair was just the transition period before we became a real couple. I wasn't ready for that conversation, wasn't ready to my entire. But I also wasn't ready to lose Marcus, wasn't ready to go back to feeling invisible and taken for granted. So I booked the Charleston trip and told Tom it was a marketing conference. He barely looked from his laptop. Have fun. Emma and I will probably hit the Children's Museum. His easy acceptance felt like proof that he really didn't care whether I was there or not. See how simple that was? How I turned his trust into evidence of his indifference. Charleston was perfect. Marcus and I walked through the historic district like a real couple, had dinner at restaurants where I didn't have to scan for neighbors, slept in until noon without small voices asking for breakfast. For 2 days I got to experience as someone who chose passion over stability, adventure over security. It felt like freedom. Marcus took pictures of us together. Real pictures, not the careful selfies we'd sneak in hotel rooms. Pictures where we looked like people in love, people with nothing to hide. Send me that one, I said, looking at a photo of us on the beach. Already did? He replied, then paused. No, can't keep hiding this forever. Right, I knew. Deep down I knew this double had an expiration date. Either I was going to choose Tom and end things with Marcus, or I was going to choose Marcus and end my marriage. But I wasn't ready to choose. I wanted both lives permanently and possibly. The weekend felt like a glimpse of the future Marcus wanted us to have. And God help me, I wanted it too. I came home Sunday night glowing, refreshed, happy in a way that Tom couldn't help but notice. Conference went well, he asked, actually looking at me this time. Well, learned a lot. Emma bounced into the kitchen. Did bring me anything, Mommy? I always brought her something from business trips. Always. I forgot, sweetheart, I'm sorry. Her face fell. Never forget. Tom's eyes sharpened. Fine, always remember souvenirs. It was a busy conference, I said, scrambling. I'll pick something for tomorrow, okay, Em? She nodded, but I could see the disappointment. Another inconsistency for her mental file. That night, Tom tried to initiate for the first time in months. Under normal circumstances I would have been thrilled. Evidence that he still desired me, still saw me as more than a co-parent and household manager. Instead I felt guilty, dirty. Like I was cheating on Marcus by sleeping with my own husband. How twisted is that? I was so deep in the affair that intimacy with Tom felt like betrayal. I made an excuse about being tired from traveling. Tom didn't push, just rolled over and went to sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about Marcus's hands on me just 24 hours earlier, wondering how I was going to navigate this impossible situation. The answer came in the worst possible way. Tom found the Charleston photos on my phone 3 days later. I'd forgotten to delete them. Actually forgotten in the post-trip haze of trying to readjust to normal. They were just sitting there in my camera roll, mixed in with pictures of Emma's soccer practice and our grocery list. Tom was looking for a photo Emma had taken of a butterfly in our backyard when he scrolled too far and found them. Pictures of me with another man. Pictures where I looked happier, more alive, more beautiful than I had in any photo with Tom in years. I came home from work to find him sitting at our kitchen table, my phone face between us like evidence at a crime scene. Who is he? Tom's voice was steady, controlled, but I could see his hands shaking. Emma was at soccer practice. We had maybe an hour before she came home to this nuclear. Tom, I can explain. Who is he, Sarah? His name is Marcus. He works at my company. How long? The question I'd been dreading. 4 months. Something died in Tom's eyes when I said that number. 4 months wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. 4 months was a relationship. 4 months was choosing someone else over family over and over again. To love him. The question hung between us like a landmine. Yes would end our marriage instantly. No would make everything that came next feel pointless, selfish, destructive without even the excuse of love. I think so. I whispered. Tom nodded slowly like he was processing information that confirmed his worst fears. Where were really last weekend? Charleston. Within another nod. Another piece of our marriage crumbling in real time. Does Emma know? God, no. I would never what? Never let affair affect daughter. Because that's exactly what done Sarah. Every lie told, every time been distracted thinking about him instead of focusing on her, every moment spent building that doesn't include us. He was right and we both knew it. I need to leave. Tom said quietly, tonight, before Emma gets home. Tom, please, we can work through this. I'll end it with Marcus. No, His voice was firm, final. I can't look at right now. I can't pretend this is something we can just fix. I need out of this house before our daughter comes home and sees me falling apart. The practicality of it hit me like a physical. I had nowhere to go. My parents lived 3 states away. My sister would ask too many questions. Most of our friends were couple friends, and this news would spread through our social circle like wildfire. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. Tom said, and the coldness in his voice was worse than if he'd screamed at me. Maybe Marcus can help figure it out. I packed a suitcase while Tom sat in the kitchen staring at those pictures. Grabbed clothes and toiletries like I was going on a business trip instead of potentially ending my marriage. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a hotel parking lot, calling Marcus to tell him that my double had just collapsed. This is good, he said when I finished explaining. Now we can be together for real. But it didn't feel good. It felt like I'd just blown everything stable and secure in my world for something that suddenly felt uncertain and temporary. I realized sitting alone in that hotel room, that I didn't actually know Marcus well enough to rebuild my entire around him. And Emma was going to come home to find mommy just gone. Emma didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. Not because Tom turned her against me, though God knows he would have been justified. Because she figured out on her own that I'd chosen someone else over her, over our family, over everything we'd built together. 6-year-olds understand betrayal differently than adults. They don't rationalize it or make excuses or blame circumstances. They just know that the person who was supposed to protect them chose to them instead. Tom told her I was staying somewhere else for a while because mommy and daddy needed space to figure some things out. Age-appropriate language that gave her hope this was temporary, fixable. But Emma had been collecting evidence of my deception for months. The business card, the forgotten souvenirs, the way I smelled different, the phone calls I took in another room, the nights I came home late and distracted. She connected the dots faster than Tom did. The first time I picked her for my court-mandated visitation, she sat in the backseat of my rental car and asked, "Is Marcus boyfriend now?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Sweetheart, it's complicated. To love him more than daddy. Jesus. How to answer that question? How to explain to a child that destroyed their sense of security because we're bored? Because wanted to feel special? Because convinced deserved more than they'd built together? I love most. I said, which wasn't an answer and we both knew it, but left us for him. I left because mommy and daddy couldn't make each other happy anymore. Looked happy before, she said quietly. At my birthday party. At the zoo. When we made cookies. She was right. I had been happy, or at least content. The affair hadn't been about escaping misery. It had been about chasing something that felt more exciting than contentment. How to explain to child that traded their stability for excitement? Emma spent that first visit answering questions in single syllables, watching me like I was a stranger she'd been forced to spend time with. Marcus tried to be patient with my adjustment period, but his fantasy of our together didn't include a traumatized child who resented his existence. She'll warm to me, he kept saying. But Emma was smarter than that. She knew Marcus represented the destruction of her family, knew that every moment I spent with him was a moment I'd chosen him over her. The first time Marcus tried to correct her behavior, Emma looked him dead in the eye and said, "We're not my dad." The second time, she ignored him completely. The third time, she asked to go home to her real family. That's when I started to see Marcus differently. When the excitement wore off and reality set in, he wasn't the patient, understanding man I'd thought he was. He was someone who'd pursued a married woman, convinced her to her family, and now seemed annoyed that the aftermath was messy. "I didn't sign to be a stepfather to a kid who hates me," he said after a particularly difficult weekend. "She doesn't, she's processing a major change. She hates me, Sarah. And honestly, I'm starting to understand why her father gave so easily." The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical. Tom hadn't given easily. Tom had been devastated, destroyed by my betrayal. He'd asked me to leave because seeing me in our house, in our bed, was for him. But Marcus saw Tom's pain and weakness, Emma's as inconvenience. I started to realize I'd left a man who loved me deeply for a man who loved the idea of me. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Tom asked for primary custody, and my lawyer told me I probably wouldn't win. Adultery doesn't technically affect custody decisions, she explained, but it shows poor judgment. And abandoned the marital home. Plus, daughter is clearly traumatized by the separation. Abandoned the marital home. That's what my selfishness looked like in legal terms. Tom's lawyer was efficient and merciless. Every hotel receipt, every lie I'd told, every moment I'd chosen Marcus over my family was documented and presented as evidence of my unfitness as a mother. The worst part was that none of it was inaccurate. My friends started choosing sides and most chose Tom. Can't say I blamed them. He was the devoted father, the one trying to hold Emma together while I chased my midlife crisis. Marcus grew tired of being my support system through the divorce. The woman he'd fallen for was confident, exciting, available. The woman I became was needy, guilty, drowning in the consequences of our choices. "This isn't what I thought we were building together," he said 6 months after Tom found those pictures. "What did think we were building? Something fun. Something easy. Not this complicated mess with lawyers and a kid who hates me and crying every night. A fun easy. He'd helped me destroy my family because he thought it would be fun." I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. Emma visited every other weekend and Wednesday evenings, when she felt like talking to me. Most of the time she didn't. Marcus broke with me 8 months after the affair was discovered. He'd met someone else, someone without baggage, someone who wasn't a constant reminder of the destruction we'd caused together. "I'm sorry it worked out this way," he said, like our relationship was a business deal that hadn't panned out instead of the reason I'd lost everything. I wanted to him, but I couldn't. He'd never promised me forever. He'd never said he wanted to be Emma's stepfather or help me navigate the aftermath of divorce. I'd projected all of that onto him, used him as an excuse to then expected him to help me rebuild something better from the wreckage. But Marcus had just wanted an affair with an exciting married woman. When I stopped being married, stopped being exciting, became just another single mother drowning in consequences, I stopped being what he wanted. The affair had been about fantasy. My marriage had been about reality. I'd chosen fantasy and lost reality, and now I had neither. Tom started dating someone new about a year after our divorce was finalized. Emma loved her immediately. Called her Miss Jennifer, talked about how she made Daddy smile again, how she was teaching her to braid friendship bracelets. Miss Jennifer was everything I hadn't been in those final months of our marriage. Present, grateful, focused on building something instead of escaping from it. The worst part was that she was genuinely kind to Emma, never tried to replace me, never spoke badly about me, just loved my daughter the way she deserved to be loved. Emma started talking about having two moms, her real mom's Mead and her bonus mom Jennifer. It should have made me happy that Emma was healing, that she'd found someone else to trust and love. Instead, it felt like the final proof that I was replaceable. That the I'd thrown away had continued without me, maybe even improved without me. Tom and Jennifer got engaged 2 years after our divorce. Emma was their flower girl, glowing with happiness at their backyard ceremony. I watched it from my apartment, scrolling through the pictures mutual friends posted on social media. Tom looked genuinely happy for the first time in years. Emma looked secure, loved, part of something stable and beautiful. I'd given them all of that by leaving. My dating has been a series of disasters. Men who find out I cheated on my husband and left my daughter treat me like I'm fundamentally untrustworthy. The ones who don't care about my history usually don't care about much else either. Emma's 12 now. Old enough to understand exactly what I did and why our family fell apart. Old enough to have opinions about my choices that she's not shy about sharing. Why to do it, Mom? She asked during our last visit. Were we really that bad? How to answer that? How to tell child that they were perfect? That husband was a good man that together was actually pretty wonderful, but destroyed it anyway cause wanted to feel like the main character in some romantic story. How to explain that traded everything real and lasting for something that felt exciting for a few months? No, baby and daddy were perfect. I was the problem. Then why didn't fix instead of leaving us? 12 years old, and she'd asked the question I've been trying to answer for 6 years. I could have gotten therapy. Could have talked to Tom about feeling unappreciated, unfulfilled. Could have worked on our marriage instead of working around it. Could have remembered that the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where water it. But that would have required effort, vulnerability, the willingness to do hard work on something that felt boring instead of chasing something that felt exciting. I chose the easy dopamine hit of an affair over the difficult work of marriage. And I lost everything that actually mattered. Emma leaves with Tom and Jennifer full-time now. I see her every other weekend when she feels like it, which is less and less often as she gets older and builds her own social. She's polite to me but we're not close. How can we be? I'm the person who chose a stranger over her, who prioritized my feelings over her security, who taught her that the people who are supposed to love most will abandon if something better comes along. I'm living proof that mothers aren't automatically selfless, that love isn't always enough, that some choices can't be undone. Tom and Jennifer had a baby last year. Emma has a little brother she adores, a family that revolves around stability and commitment instead of excitement and passion. Sometimes I drive past their house and see them in the yard. Tom pushing the baby on a swing while Emma and Jennifer plant flowers. A perfect little family that exists because I destroyed the imperfect one we had before. I work, I pay my rent, I see a therapist who keeps trying to help me forgive. But I don't want forgiveness. I want my daughter to trust me again. I want my ex-husband to not flinch when he sees me at school events. I want to undo the moment I Marcus at that Christmas party and chose excitement over everything I already had. I want to be the person who worked on her marriage instead of working around it. I want to be someone my daughter is proud to call mom. But wanting doesn't undo anything. Regret doesn't resurrect what killed. The woman in the mirror is a stranger I created with my choices. Someone who was loved completely and it away for someone who loved her conditionally. Someone who had everything and lost it chasing something that was never real. If we're reading this and thinking about crossing that line, about sending that text, about meeting for that coffee, remember this: the excitement or chasing will fade, but the damage cause will last forever. Children will remember that chose someone else over them, and that memory will shape how they see love for the rest of their lives.